What's up, good people? Welcome into Montgomery Company. All right, we're going to get straight to it today because we have so much going on. First up, we have Kiara McClendon. She works with the Atlanta Dream, particularly with our players. And I want to talk to her about, what's it like working with an athlete? Because if you haven't worked with an athlete before, we function a little bit differently. And speaking of athletes, we have the Hall of Famer, Spencer Haywood, coming on. And the conversation, I'm telling you right now, get your popcorn type of conversation. Half of the conversation is going to be in today's show, but get the full conversation tomorrow, which is Friday. And speaking of that, man, the crew, we discuss handling pressure. It's playoffs. Spencer's handled a lot of pressure. Tap in. Let's go.
First of all, Kiara, what's your position here with the Dream?
So I'm the director of player engagement.
And this is a position that we've never had at the Dream, but a lot of teams don't even have. And so what is your job to do?
So I essentially take care of all the players off the court matters to help develop them holistically. So that's everything from player appearances to player education / guest speakers to, hey, I'm in Atlanta and I want to do something fun. Can you give me tickets to the Beyonce concert?
Okay,
those are the questions that they ask.
For real? Somebody's actually asked that?
Yes. Hey, Key, there's Drake and 21 are having a concert in a couple weeks. Do you have a plug? And I'm like, I'll look into it.
Wow.
So,
I didn't even know. See, I don't even know the things they're going to ask you, but we want them to ask you everything.
Yep.
So this is a very, you're like our liaison between the business side, the basketball side, and how the players are functioning off the court.
Yeah.
So, what things are you focused in on, though? Because, they can reach out to you, but what things are you, naturally focusing in on yourself?
Sure. So, because I'm so new, it's really been about building relationships on all sides. First and foremost, the players, because my primary goal is to make sure they're taken care of. But then also the staff. I built relationships with the business office. I'm building relationships on the basketball side. So I know what you need. Right. I can anticipate what you are going to ask me before you actually ask me.
You knew what I was about to just ask you just now, too, huh?
No.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
But I think for me, it's just relationships real big. The other piece is I'm thinking about your life after basketball. So how are we setting you up to be successful while you're a basketball player so that life after basketball and whatever that looks like is easy? You should step into that with some money in your pocket and a couple of other opportunities in play for you. So
no, that's a great point because Ryan even just came here and she was talking to us about she's not going to go overseas because she wants to build that. So that's going to be,
huge.
That's going to be huge.
She mentioned that to me a few months ago, and I've already been all right, I'm trying to plug her in here, trying to get her a meeting with this person because I think Ryan is a great person. All of our players are amazing, and I'm very fortunate to work with them. But with Ryan, she said, I want to get out more. I want to get out my shell more. So
that sounds like a you. That's why I'm asking because it feels like Ryan, what she wants to do directly is what the reason you're here. Yeah. So, Ryan Howard, the #1 draft pick, all-star.
Yeah.
What, first of all, if we were saying all these things for an NBA player, you wouldn't even need to do anything.
Yeah.
Think about this. If we had a #1 draft pick that was an NBA player, an all-star, rookie of the year, your phone would be ringing off the hooks with you wouldn't be asking for that. People would be what is that like having to navigate, almost educating people on who she is, how she is, and then moving forward with that?
I just hype her. Anytime I talk about her, I'm you need to know who this is. You know what I mean? #1 draft pick, rookie of the year, Kentucky, phenom, so that they're wow, if they don't already know. And then I'm also kind of how do you not know? How y'all not paying attention? Y'all need to get on it because, Ryan's been doing great, as has our whole entire team. So I think for me, it's just, I'm a supporter of the WNBA. I'm a supporter of the Dream, and I work here. So it's easy for me to say those things and to convey the excitement behind it.
And so, were you a former athlete, right? Or
I wasn't, not when it mattered.
Okay, because it was I thought you gave me former athlete vibes, but it's with athletes, the thing about athletes is very direct, right? I want to ask basically if you were going to say, I was going to say you're an athlete, but since you aren't, being around athletes, have you noticed how athletes speak? Is it a little, does athletes talk a little bit different?
Yeah, it's not a lot of fluff, but I'm not a lot of fluff person, so it doesn't offend me. It's all right, what do you need? Yeah. I need this. All right, cool, I can go do it. I think if you're overly sensitive about it, then you could get offended, but I'm here to help you, and your time is limited. You've got a number of different people that want something from you, so
No, I'm asking all these questions because I'm a athlete through and through.
Yeah.
And then when you retire, I start to realize that like the athlete world functions very differently.
It does.
Even my wife, she'll have to be like, hey, the way you said that wasn't, and I'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking like I was in the locker room.
So I'll give you an example. Like there's a situation where an athlete came to me for advice and I was like, you probably don't want to say it that way. You probably want to say it this way. So like the good thing is when you build that relationship and that trust, they call you out of the blue. Like I'm about to say something I probably shouldn't say.
Great. Like, I love that they're calling you for that though.
Yeah, like it
you
feels,
doing your job.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Like I think this is a perfect role for somebody like me because I feel invested in the development of people. Like I love people. I love talking to people. I love building people up. I want, like I said, to put some money in their pocket also and to make sure they're taken care of. So I'm very excited to be in this role. Thank y'all for, creating a role like this. It's needed on all teams. All teams should have a role like this. But I think all of our players are going to be that much more successful because they have people that are invested in who they are before the number on their jersey. I don't care. I do care because it helps us win. Yeah. But like my primary thing isn't, Ryan wears 10. It's like, who is Ryan Howard as an individual? Who is Cheyenne Parker, Monique Billings, Danielle Robinson, Alicia Gray? Like, who are you? Yeah. How can I help you? Wow. What do you need? You need a hug. Like, if you notice, if you watch me today, I walked around like, you need a hug.
You was hugging everybody.
I was hugging everybody.
Lord have mercy. We passed COVID at least. I mean, I'm mind germs.
But sometimes
but I love that.
You know?
No, of course they need that. Listen, I'm so happy to have you here because as a player, I needed that. Like you saying it, but like as a player, I would have loved to have somebody that if I'm in the city, they can get me connected or even just help guide my path. So we're happy to have you here.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for stopping by the show.
Yes, thank you.
That was Kiara McClendon, our Director of Player Engagement. And now on to my conversation with the legend, the Hall of Famer, Spencer Haywood. We have a legend in the building, all right? Spencer Haywood, he was inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame in September 2015. And we're going to get into everything. I don't even feel comfortable saying just Spencer. So, Mr. Spencer Legend, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And what an honor to be on your show because you have shown me what the movement is all about nowadays and to show me that young people and a young person such as yourself can, steer the NBA guys and the WNBA girls to something higher than what was normal at that time.
Wow. So, thank you, legend. Oh, my goodness. Thank you. And when I say legend, I want people to really understand, like, this Hall of Famer won a championship iconically with the Lakers, but you have so much history. And the NBA Finals is going on right now, and everyone knows that the Denver Nuggets, there's a lot of talk about, like, this could be the year. Miami Heat, they're battling out with them. You have some deep-rooted history with the Denver Nuggets. I mean, a legend in your own right. Can you just talk about your time there? Where were they when you were playing for the Nuggets?
Well, what happened, if I can back up a tad bit, because I was promoted as the young phenom in basketball at that time. And what happened was in the 1968 Olympics, when Kareem boycotted the 68 Olympics, they came and got me to take his place. And I was 18 at that time. I turned 19 at the games. And we won the gold medal. I set 5 records in that gold medal run.
Wait, what 5 records? Whoa, I'm not about to let you skip none of the greatness, okay? Hold on. Do you know what the 5 records are? Do you even remember? Because sometimes.
Yes. Well, the first one was the most points in Olympic history in the single game.
How much?
Single game series. I think it was 156 or 140, 156, I think.
Okay, so the team scored 100 and plus points, and it was the most points scored in a game.
And, no, not in the game, but in the series that we played. And so later it was broken by Kevin Durant in 2012, but he has an asterisk by it because he was shooting threes and I didn't. And also I set the highest field goal percentage in the history of America. It's still.
So you was in the zone. What was the?
Yeah, I was in that zone. I shot 72% from the field.
Let's go. Let's go. Talk your talk. I want you to Come on.
And I broke the record in block shots. And
how many of those?
I don't know that one, but
okay.
Yeah. And so from there, I left and I went back to the University of Detroit. And at that time, we had just came out of the riots in Detroit, the 1967 riots. So I was coming home to try to save our city because our city had gotten burned down. And so at the University of Detroit, we were in the independent league. I got out there and averaged 33 points per game and 23 rebounds per game in Division I. And we played independents. We played Notre Dame, all of the greats. And so right away, the draft came up that year, and the NBA and the ABA went after Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kareem decided at the last minute that, well, I think I'm not going to the ABA because I want to go to the NBA. So he signed with the Milwaukee Bucks. And now Hannah Storm's father, Mike Storm, says, well, wait a minute. We got to get somebody to come in and save the ABA because we're going to go out of business if we don't. And we need something to pull the draft, pull together draft picks before they get to the NBA. So the guy that we need to talk Spencer Haywood into leaving college and coming to play with Denver as part of our global marketing scheme for the ABA. And I signed with Denver thinking, yeah, this would be a nice chance for me to play basketball, get my mother out of the cotton field, because I had left home when I was 15 because I was living in Silver City, Mississippi, which is just cotton fields and no city, no nothing. And my mother was picking cotton for $2 a day. My family had been picking cotton for over 100 years. They just did that slave work. So I wanted to make a difference, and I signed with Denver. And the idea was to, if I could get, I think he said like 7 rebounds and maybe 10 points, it'll be a successful journey. And then we could go after Julius Erving and all the other guys the next year.
Wait, can I pause you right there? They wanted you to get what? 7 rebounds and about what?
10 points at max.
So let me pause and just say, your rookie year at Denver, you played in 84 regular season games and you averaged 45 minutes. Side note, so you was out there on the court. You averaged 30 and 19 rebounds. I want people to understand. They wanted you to get 7 and 10. You came in and averaged 30 and 19. All right, go ahead. I just want to make sure.
30 and 19. I was the rookie of the year. I was the leading scorer, leading rebounder, MVP of the league, and MVP of the All-Star game. Wow. And the only person that ever came close to that kind of performance in a rookie year was Wilt Chamberlain. So I'm up there with Wilt on that level. And so we bailed out the ABA, and then all of a sudden you had Julius Erving, George Gervin, all of those guys says, hey man, I'm not waiting for 4 more years in college. I'm leaving after my second year, my first year, and they came into the ABA, and that's when the ABA got its sea legs. But in the meantime, Denver owner says to me, well, I want to make you the highest paid player in the world.
What?
Like, okay, let's do it.
Listen, talk to me nice. How much was that?
Let's drop it on me. So he signed me to a contract, and I was trusting, like, okay, you're doing the right thing because I'm the MVP, and I just saved your league. I just saved your franchise. So they put together this contract that they would put $15,000 into Wall Street, and over 50 years or so, Wall Street will create the $1.5 million back then that would pay me. And so how that contract was written was that I would get this $75,000 to $100,000 per year. That's back in the 70s. So
and they wanted you to be the high. I know there's going to be inflation and different things of that nature that would change it, but the highest paid player at that time, which should have been you're making 75 to 100.
Yeah, well, it was supposed to be $250,000 per year, but what happened is they put in clauses in the contract that state that I would get paid from age 50 to age 70 from the Rockets. And not only that, but there's another clause in that contract that says I had to be employed by Ringsby Truck Line, who owned the team, the Rockets team. So it was a totally fraudulent contract, and there's no way it was going to come to it's going to like put $15,000 in this program called the Dog Off program. I would say it's a Bernie Madoff deal.
Wow.
And they were supposed to generate that money. And that's why it was the headlines was like, Haywood is the highest paid player, and I refuse to get paid like Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell, because at that time they were arguing over who was going to be the highest paid player. And Wilt Chamberlain got $125 for the year, and Bill Russell said, I'm not playing unless I get paid more. And Red Auerbach gave him $1 more. The highest paid player.
It's like trading spaces. It's like the dollar bet almost in trading spaces.
This is old school ball. So this is 1970s and stuff. So I go into the office with my newfound lawyer and friend, Al Ross. We're going in, but they're going to straighten this contract out. Man, this is no big deal. So I walk in and we're trying to negotiate and straighten the contract out and get the dollar amount of the contract. That owner was an old trucker, who built his business on wildcatting and stuff. He said, you get your ass out of here and take that Jew lawyer with you.
What?
I'm not going to correct this contract. I'm not doing nothing, because listen, you can't go back to college because you left early. So you cannot accept it back in college, and you can't go to the NBA because the NBA have a 4-year rule that states that you cannot play until your 4 years after high school. So
wow.
So you got me. So you got me between a rock and a hard place. And so right away, this guy, Sam Schulman, who owned the Seattle Supersonics, who had just gotten that franchise, it was Seattle and Phoenix who had just gotten the expansion franchise. So the Phoenix Suns came over and they got Connie Hawkins, the MVP, just before me. And they took him over to Phoenix out of the ABA. And so Sam Schulman says, I'm taking the next ABA MVP, and it took me, but I was an underclassman. So right away, I signed with Seattle to play with the Sonics, and the NBA slammed me with a letter stating that we have a lawsuit against you, stating that you can't play in the league until your class has graduated from college.
Wow, that's a WNBA rule right now, actually.
Okay, well, you know what I'm saying. I'm saying, well, oh man, what am I going to do? And so Sam Schulman said, I'm going to pay you just to sit out. And I want to play, man. Can we fight this? Because I just came out of the Olympics with Tommy Smith and John Carlos, and I was a young player with those guys, and listening and watching them go through all of their stuff. The black
iconic Olympics. That 1968 Olympics is iconic.
Yeah. So I was like, oh my God, I got to fight for this rights. And so I sued the NBA for the rights to play.
Yeah, the 1971 Supreme Court case. Is that what you're referring to? Because we had Sonny Vaccaro come on the show previously. He's kind of the grandfather of name, image, and likeness with the Impact in college. You had your own history that you made because spoiler alert, I'm gonna let you tell it. But what happened when y'all went to court?
Well, first we started off. We went into court, and they got an injunction for 10 games. So I sat at home. And I just worked out continuously, like I'm going to get in, because I'm going to get an injunction against the league for 10 games. So I got the injunction later, for 10 games to play. And I'm thinking, wow, they're going to love me. So I walk out on the floor. I'm like, oh, I'm so happy to be playing again. And they says, well, ladies and gentlemen, we have an illegal player on the floor, number 24.
No.
This game is being played under protest. That's the announcer. And I was like, whoa. And
So
people
how did the crowd react? Like, did people
start
cheer?
throwing bottles. They start throwing everything. Oh my God, go back to college. What are you doing? You're messing up basketball. This ain't no ABA. This is the real game. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna beat up all of your players just like I beat up the guys in the NBA. Not physically, but I mean basketball.
Right.
I can't wait to play against Will. I can't wait to play against Elgin Baylor and Oscar Robertson. Bring them all on. I'm the new guy. I'm the new thing. So I'm talking all my talk. So we got through 10 games. And then they got another 10-game injunction. Then the following, I got an injunction to play again. And we get to Cincinnati, and their injunction was, let's put him out in the snow. So they put me out in the snow.
What do you mean? What do you mean put you out in the snow?
No, he can't. This injunction read tonight, we can't allow him to be in the arena or in the locker room or on the grounds. They
didn't even let you in the building, is what you're saying. They didn't even let you inside.
No, they put me outside, and I'm standing out in the snow because they let me warm up first. And I had nothing but my warm-up gear on. So I'm standing out there freezing like, oh my God, what is going on? Why are they doing me so bad? And the police who were guarding me said, get in the car because you're dying out here and you're going to freeze. So I got in the car, and we finally got maneuvered all the way to the Supreme Court. And when we got to the Supreme Court, Thurgood Marshall made a statement that we allow young men to go to Vietnam, to fight in the war at age 18 and to 20, 22. But yet this man can't make a living for his family, who is in abject poverty in Mississippi. So let's look under the Sherman Antitrust Act, and let's allow him to play basketball. So that's how I won my case.
Wow. Come on, man. You better. Because
this case from 1971, April 1st until now, it has created over $50 billion in players' salary that players alone get. And by that, let me give you an example. I hate to use LeBron, but I'm going to have to.
Okay.
LeBron is getting $50 million a year. Mm-hmm. He's got 4 extra years to make that 50. So he's $200 million richer because of me.
Yeah,
so
because your case
all the way down.
Yeah, your case allowed all the athletes on the men's side. It set the precedent that now an athlete can choose whether they stay for 1 year, whether they don't go, whether they stay for 2 years. You are the case that allowed us to see the one and dones and the different things. Kevin Durant of the world, LeBron James. We know like there's a large group of superstars, Kobe Bryant, who opted not to go to school. They thought that they were ready for the league, and they were. That's what the 1971 Supreme Court case that you won.
Yeah. It allowed all of these players, and then you have the guys like Michael Jordan, who says, well, I'll play for 3 years, but I want to come out under that Spencer Haywood rule. Magic Johnson, 2 years. So it changed the game of basketball. Now, with all of the fighting that the NBA did, the NBA was like rolling at 14 to 16 teams at that time when we won the case. All of a sudden, the NBA says, oh my God, we can expand because we can
more
get
players coming in.
So all of a sudden, the owners, the teams that were worth about, say $500 million, they jumped to $1 billion in ownership. And all of a sudden, we put in another, I think, 12 teams.
Wow.
Because of the workforce was available then.
You know, it's crazy that you're talking about this because all the things that you're talking about that you were living through, even the salaries, it's almost the current state of the WNBA now. And I know that when you were playing, I don't know how old was the league when you were playing in the 1970s and the 1980s, but the WNBA is about 27. I think it's our 27th year in the WNBA. Yeah. So a lot of the things that you're discussing now are our current real reality. Like, did you guys, I'm sure took commercial flights. You didn't fly private, did you? Did you take normal flights, or did you take how did you travel?
We traveled earlier in Denver. We took commercial, and when I was all the way up until my latter years, we traveled commercial airlines, and the players that were getting the most minutes, they flew first.
Oh, they flew first class?
Yeah, and here I am. I was the MVP of the league, and I had to ride in the back.
Oh my goodness! Wait, why was that then? I thought you said the players that played the best.
I had all of the films, equipment, and my gym bag. I was like, "Whoa, y'all trying to kill me!" But yeah, you had to. You did commercial, and then when I got to the Knicks, we started doing charter because New York was a hub, so you could charter in and out.
And did all teams start to do charter at the same time, or
no? They slowly moved into it. Different teams start to move into it latter. I was thinking the latter part of the 80s, they started to do charters.
So you were one of the first groups that had, because you went to New York, they were a big hub, so they were one of the first ones to have a charter.
Oh, that's right.
Wow, because it's crazy now, because if you look at the NBA now, I mean, I'm still like, you know what I mean? It's crazy, the growth, and that's what almost excites me, because like I said, everything you're talking about, the lifestyle you were living when you played, that's the lifestyle that I lived when I played in the WNBA, and I just retired 2 years ago. We fly charter, like the salaries, even, if you used inflation, your salary comps will be around $500,000 in today's age. Like that's, the WNBA maximum contract is around $283,000. So in your lifetime, you've watched the NBA explode into this billion-dollar business, pretty much. That's not necessarily how it was when you were playing.
Yeah, but the wonderful thing about it is I had a big part in that whole explosion of the business aspect, because I refused to, when I got to the Seattle Supersonics, again, the players were asking for $225, and I said my contract in Denver was $250. If you can't pay me $250 cash, I'm not playing. I'm going through court so I can just fight another battle.
Wow, you was like, I'm gonna take it to the courts. I'm out here winning.
I love that court. They said, "Oh, please give him the money and let him go." And so all of a sudden, the next year, all of the guys, Elvin Hayes and everybody, well, I want the same contract that Haywood got.
Wow.
So that's how those salaries started to escalate, and it just grew out of that.
Did y'all have a union when you were playing, like a player?
Yeah, we had a union. Just at that time in 1964, let me give you a little history of the 64 walkout. In 1964, the NBA All-Star game was being played, I think, in Boston, and Oscar Robertson, Jerry West, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, and all of them said, the game is on national television. This is the first big national televised game for the All-Star game. We're not going to play. And the cameras are outside rolling, so everybody's running around negotiating. What are we going to do? They got to get on the floor. And they says, well, we want a union. And that's how the union started.
That was so they knew they had them.
Yeah.
Wow. And so that's how the union was formed when, the All-Star game, they was like, we're not playing in the game until we have a players union to represent our voices. What were they fighting for at that particular moment that they like?
It was just, just healthcare, all of the same thing that you guys are fighting for right now. Or maybe you have all of those things, but it was those basic things, and just to have the right to have a union was like so big and such a key thing for everybody. So that's when all the players boycotted, and Oscar Robertson was one of the leaders, and Jerry West, and those guys said we got to have a union, and that's how the union started.
It's crazy because so Jerry West, I'm from West Virginia, and so is Jerry West. And so I linked up with him.
Hawthorne.
Come on, yeah.
Yeah, he's West
Let's
Virginia.
go. Yeah, so I linked up with Jerry West at NBA Summer League. And, you know, like he was just telling me how one of the things that he learned long ago was that he was going to use his voice for and make it have more of an impact because, you know, he was a white man speaking for these things. And so to hear you say that right now, that's kind of crazy because, you know, it's kind of like the kids say, no cap. Like he was telling all the facts, like he was doing it as a player, not only when, you know, and after.
Yeah. Jerry West, besides being the logo for the NBA, he has been a fighter through all of this stuff. And so Jerry West is a little teed off these days because he and I are the two villains in the movie that's on HBO, the series on HBO, Winning Time.
Why are y'all the villains? I haven't seen it.
Well, I'm the villain because, you know, in 1980, I slipped into substance abuse and I started using cocaine. And it was during the playoffs that I got real sick. And the team asked me to stay at home for the last 2 games. And so Jerry West was our general manager, him and Bill Sharman. So they making Jerry West in this HBO movie, like making him look like he's a madman throwing things around. And he was not that kind of a person.
I told you guys you need to tap in tomorrow for the full conversation. Incredible story, unreal history told. And now, you know, it made me think about mental health and how we handle that in our everyday lives, because sports is sports, but sports emulates life. So we're going to talk a little bit about how do we handle pressure with the crew. Okay, so coming off that conversation with the legend Spencer, I don't even feel right saying like legends by their first name, so I'm gonna call him like the legend is gonna be Legend Spencer is what I'm gonna have to call for a handle on his name. But you know, it's crazy that the conversations around mental health are constantly being talked about, but the reason that mental health is talked about is because of pressure. Like, and I'm obviously gonna always be speaking from an athlete sports perspective. Our pressure is seen. Like you guys can see pressure applied. Like literally fans will be like trying to apply pressure with noise, with their bodies, with different things. And so it's like, how do you handle pressure? You know, like I even talked to, you know, in an episode coming up, I'm going to be talking to Amy Olsen, a pro golfer. And I talked to her about like, yeah, like when you're nervous before a match, it sounds good to say to play loose, but how do you do that? Like, how do you actually handle the pressure? How do you actually calm the nerves? Like, and it's in any profession. Like I talk about all the time, I'm an athlete and I'm still in sports, but I'm sure there's pressure at home, there's pressure in the workplace, there's pressure everywhere. So we're going to talk about like pressure, under pressure. Like we're going to talk about pressure because it's like we all have it, but how are we all handling it? And like basically how you handle pressure is how you're handling your mental health. It's all connected. And so like pressure applied, is there more pressure applied at home? Is there more pressure applied at work? Like where is the pressure coming from, your pressure points? And I don't know if anybody wants to start off. Snooka Book is looking cute, skinning and grinning as we call it. Like I already know, even in your workplace, your boss has applied pressure to you before. What's your response to pressure? Like how do you handle it? Like what do you do when pressure comes your way?
Okay, well, I have to go back to, as always, Fanny Pearl.
Fanny Pearl.
She always told me there's always more room out than there is in. So don't keep that stuff in, let it out. And there's different situations where you'll let it out. Sometimes you'll let it out nicely and sometimes not so nicely. In the workplace, I always try to let it out nicely with wit. And most of the time when people would do things and they knew they were wrong and they were trying to get me, I would try to be so witty with my comeback that, you know, they knew where I was going and how I was cutting them down, and they just had to smile and go with it because they know I got them on it. But
that makes me think about what they
so
say.
You release pressure.
Yes.
She gonna get.
She releases it in a healthy way.
She gonna listen. Snook gonna express herself and her thoughts and her feelings. It makes me think about people when they talk about like you know, that email where you're going off, but in professional etiquette form, where as per my last email, you know, Snook must have been one of them then that she was like, oh, you want to apply pressure? We got that pressure over here too.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And then there's situations like, you know, you said I haven't really played professional sports, but I've been at a lot of sports activities, and I don't try to be really mean, but I really like let it out and
Oh,
say
you
what
mean
I
you
have to
apply pressure
say.
to the refs?
So Snook is the one applying the pressure here.
Right. So we was talking about how we handle it. We need to get a ref on here. Actually, I want to interview a ref. I'm putting this out into the universe in case there's any referees that ref at the college level or the professional level. I want to holler at you real quick because you guys do. Yeah, I mean, like, you live life in the hot seat. You live life under pressure because every time you make a call, there's one group that's going to be mad about it every single time. So,
Well, you're actually under pressure when you're making the calls or you're talking to the referees because, you know, we're very competitive, and I always want my family, I have grandchildren, my children all play. Always want them to win. I want them to win fairly. So there's pressure there when you feel that they're playing the game to their utmost, and then there's somebody there who's not being or playing fairly. Or you don't feel the calls correctly. So you have to take the pressure that you're feeling and then let it out still. So that's where I'm at with that.
So basically, this is Snook, I would like to assess you I have no experience, but I would say that your mental health is probably in a good state because you're not about to let nobody stress you out. Like that's what it sounds like. You said there's a lot more room out than in, you ain't about to keep none of your feelings.
No.
So Snook is letting her voice be heard.
She's gonna let you know. I like that, Snook.
What's the pressure like for you? Like when you have a lot going on? I mean, you juggle a lot. You're raising 4 boys, you and Big Shannon. What's the pressure like your way? How do you handle it?
I get to an unbothered state. So I get to the point where the pressure is just ridiculous. I just get to an unbothered state. I get quiet. And then once I get quiet, it's the moment where everything is starting to just get even. So now I can say, okay, well, this is a problem, that's a problem. And then I may let it out. But
wait a minute. In that get quiet state, it sounds like there's a little ether mode going on.
It is
something boiling underneath there.
It's a vaporizing moment about to happen. In whichever direction the pressure is applied incorrectly, that's about the moment when whatever is about to be vaporized. But when I have that type of pressure, I'm not the person who just automatically, I have to think about it. And if I think it all the way through, and once I think it all the way through and it's not right, I'm a very logical person. If anything that's illogical is a part of that pressure, it automatically just gets eliminated from. I don't feel like there's no point in me putting any more thought process, any more energy or anything else into something not being logical. So I think that even in the business world, like we could go to a meeting and everybody in the room is catching it. And they'll say, well, they'll ask a question, and I'll be like, well, can I ask a couple questions too? Because everybody has two sides of a coin, and there's pressure on the person who's actually applying pressure, and there's the pressure from the person receiving it. So I like to even the playing field with pressure. So I ask questions.
So you like to apply the pressure too, like Snook.
Not necessarily. I just like to share it. Let's just share it. Let's just share it. Why is it all gotta be one? Let's share it.
Cole basically is like, look, if you apply pressure to me, we're gonna share this load, honey. Snook said if you apply pressure to her, she gonna give it right back. So there is a little difference there. You got a little snooker booker. Now, if we would assess your mental health, I would say that in those pause moments, you might be a little stressed out.
Unstable. It's a little unstable. You can get one way or the other. It could go up or it could go down. So
anything can happen on those states. But this is like, it's good to know yourself, because I'm gonna say that's the thing about athletes, that the one thing that about athletes is we have to know ourselves. I have to know how I best function. So I have to know when am I my best when I go to sleep, because that's the target time I got to go to sleep. what am I the best? Like, what do I eat on game days that makes me feel my best self? Like, because my best self, sometimes I might eat a good meal, but I feel heavy. So, oh no, baby, that ain't me. I need to be fast, light on my feet. So in sports, we are taught to learn our best selves, and then we create this most ridiculous routine that we will not shy away from. And if you do break our routine, you might have ruined our whole week and my whole season. If I had a terrible game that made us lose this game that we needed to win, this is how serious. Exactly. This is how serious it gets for athletes, in a sense of we got to know ourselves. And so in the workplace, I think that if people knew themselves better, it would help with their mental health, and it would help with other things, because like I know the things that are going to stress me out beforehand. So I make sure I avoid those things. And so I'm curious, babe, like you, like, how are you I know how you are, but I want them, like, how are you with pressure when it's applied, and like, what do you do? What's your response?
Well, I like that Spencer Haywood said that he takes a mental health day. I feel like more people need to do that. I feel like I probably need to do that, because I'm the kind of person that I get nervous for everything. Like everything makes my hands sweat. Like it could be a meeting, it could be, and it's funny because even when I perform, especially when I perform in front of people, I'm so nervous. I don't even know how I'm gonna do it. But you know, I guess my thing with myself, I like to challenge myself. So I always say that I'm not gonna let this scary feeling or all this pressure on top of me win. So I always like, okay, just because I'm scared doesn't mean I'm not gonna do it. So I'm still gonna do it anyway. And so one thing that I always kind of try to practice is always show up, even if you're nervous, even if you have a lot of pressure, even if you don't have the homework assignment done, just still go to class. You know, like still just show up, and things will start falling in line. Because you know, a lot of times I feel like anxiety just builds up on you just thinking about stuff, and that's my problem too. I'm an overthinker, so I think about things way too much, and then I feel the pressure even more. But then, you know, if you just kind of just not think so much and just show up, I feel like some of that is gonna kind of subside a little bit. But I guess the way I handle it is just I freak out a little bit, and then I just do the work anyway. That's how I do it.
Serena, I should have had you as a guest speaker to my classes when I was teaching. Just show up. Hey, that's half the battle.
Hey, that is half the battle.
That's a good point, though, because the legend Isaiah Thomas, Zeke, that he basically, when I first started going to NBA TV, I started out doing like NBA updates, and that's it's a 1 minute hit. It takes 10 minutes to record. It's basically a big nothing burger, but it was my nothing burger. But when I was in the studio, I would see Isaiah Thomas, and he would notice that even though my hit it would only take 10 minutes to film, I would hang around the studio like 2 hours. Just I'm sitting there meetings, I'm listening, I'm talking to producers, and he would always tell me like, hey, you keep showing up, good things are going to happen. And so to your point, babe, that's a part of like the pressure, because it is the easiest thing to do. Is we all want to hide. I'll be honest.
Sometimes I want to hide too. Yes.
But you know what pressure, all pressure is conflict, and how it's conflict within yourself or conflict that is presented to you. So any type of pressure, the only reason why it's uncomfortable because it's conflict. So if sometimes if you think about it in that aspect and you embrace conflict, then you do better in pressure point type situations. Because
I love it.
Yeah, I'm not a person who shies.
Snook said Snook got that action.
Right. Renee doesn't like conflict, so I don't like
confrontation.
I'm curious to see, like, so how do you? We live each other, and I mean we live with each other, so I know how you handle it, like physically. But how do you handle it, like internally? And is it different than when you were an athlete and now that you are basically just a businesswoman?
No, look at my baby. Questions. So for me, it is interesting, because I tell my babe all the time that it's so different in locker rooms, right? So there's like Coach REM always talked about how like he didn't like how non-confrontational I am, because a lot of times when you think of leadership, you think of a certain leader like, hey, get on the line, get back, like, you know, like you think of that type of leader. But you have to like there's all kinds of different leaders. I'm pretty much the example of like, my way that I handle things is humor. Like humor and music are how like I get through everything. So basically, like, I'm not going to tell my teammate that they've taken 2 bad shots in a row. I'm going to say something like, listen, you done already shot 2, so that third one better go in, or let me get you a layup. Like, I'm gonna have to like help them through it. I'm not gonna just tell them straight up that you're taking bad shots. I'm like, listen, let me get you a layup, boo boo, because the rim not playing, like, or something like, or if they're mad at a call. I had teammates all the time, but my way of getting through my teammate about to get a technical is I'm about to, sorry refs, I'm about to roast the refs on how bad they are straight to my teammate. And so she can know I'm with you, but you know what I'm saying? Say it to me. You know what I mean? Like, we even had a thing where we, instead of saying the ref, we would say airlines and be like, oh man, US Airways sucks. Like, because the refs can't, you know what I mean? We got to figure out different ways, but the way that I handle it is just humor all the time. Like, because there's constantly in sports, there's always a person that's trying to make you fail. So that's the difference in your workplace as opposed to sports. There's literally a human on the other side of the ball that wants you to not succeed. So every single game, I have to know I'm going into that's why we call it a war, or we call it a fight. But that pressure of it all, it's like, you know, for me, my way of handling pressure is I'm way over prepared. It's actually my curse. It's like, I can't go into anything not being too prepared. I waste too much time planning for the thing that could happen, that might happen, that may not happen. But if it happens, I'm ready though. Like, that's the thing that gets me. It's like, that's how I handle it. It's like, I know that I'm ready for whatever they could ask, or in the games, I'm watching extra film, I'm shooting extra shots. The way I handle pressure is that, like, I know nobody can outwork me in the same way, even in business right now. So like, that's kind of how I always handle pressure.
I can attest.
Yes. You know, I'm a workaholic. Like, I don't even, it's like, what, there's like rappers that say it all the time. Big Sean said it, like, I'm uncomfortable on vacation. Like, it's like, I'm one of them people that, from where I play sports my whole life, I've had 2-week breaks in between seasons my whole entire life. So my mind is used to every 2 days I got a game, or every other day I'm traveling, whether it's overseas. When I was playing or in the WNBA, I went from AAU to UConn to WNBA for 11 seasons to now here I am sitting here talking to y'all. My body's accustomed to a fast-paced lifestyle. Working hard is what my body's accustomed to. So nothing changed, even though I don't play sports anymore. So for me, like, I'm just a workaholic. Like, that's
It's been a fantastic voyage.
fantastic voyage. But
I will say that Renee does, like, when you said unbothered, Cole, like, I feel like Renee is definitely that too. Like, we're polar opposites. It could be something that's like so serious, and it's almost like I have to ask Renee, like, do you know like who you're about to talk to, or do you know who you're about to meet, or something? Because it's like, she's the chillest she can be. She's just like, so, I guess, you know, like, unbothered is the word, you know, and just so playful. And I can see that you handle it with humor, but it's almost, I think it's a little bit more than that too. It's almost like you don't take yourself too serious too. You know, like, you don't take anything too serious.
No, and you know what's
But
funny,
at the same time, everything is serious too.
everything is very serious, because losing a game is serious when you're a sports athlete.
And that's what you always tell me too, because I'd be like, oh, what about this? And she's like, everything is serious. One thing is not going to be more important and more serious than the other. And so that's, we always go back and forth.
Yeah, because she be wanting me to get really prepared if we have a big guest. And I'm like, babe, I get really prepared for every guest. And she'd be like, okay, listen, this is Sunny coming on the show, honey, the host of The View. We gotta be ready. And I'll be like, baby, I'm ready. I get ready for every game the same. But maybe that's how I handle pressure, and everybody has different ways to handle pressure. But we want you guys to just be locked in and paying attention to how you're handling pressure, because that's how you're handling your mental health. And so take care of you first. Put your mask on before helping others, is what they say on those airlines that we used to cuss out when we was playing. Sorry, y'all. But put your mask on first before helping others. That's all we got, man. I love our crew discussions. Under pressure. Handle your pressure, y'all. All right, so again, I can't emphasize enough, tap in tomorrow. You're going to want to hear what Spencer Haywood has to say. And speaking of, he talked about that he's a girl dad to me, and we got to shout out all the dads for Father's Day. I know that, you know, we're very woman-centric around here, but we always cover sports, we cover business, but we also want to show the dads love, because come on now, look, I'm a daddy's girl. I'm also a mom's girl too. Shouts to Snook, because Snook, y'all know she's the host of the show. So shouts to Snook, but also shouts to Diddy, man. I'm always going to be a daddy's girl. Shouts to all the girl dads, but shouts to all the boy dads too. I mean, shouts to all the dads that play that role in the family. Tap in tomorrow. You guys already know it's a generational thing.